Hi and welcome back to Rouen the Robsons. In this video we're going to talk about our experience of driving from Dover down to a place called Tours. So if you caught up in the last episode, we basically drove down from the northeast down to Dover, stayed overnight, got up really early, quite misty, about 5 o'clock in the morning, went and got the ferry, and then after we got the ferry we drove down from Calais through a place called Rouen, and we've got some hints and tips of what I decided and we decided to do through Rouen, and also some hints and tips about using Street View again and taking some pictures of things on the way so you just knew you were going the right lines. So we travelled from Calais down to Tours, which I think for most people is probably about a day's travel. It took us about 8 hours, I would say, and that was a couple of stops there because it was quite tiring driving out of time. Road absolutely fantastic, but it is a long drive, so you have to consider that, particularly with us having the three girls. We couldn't just kind of plough on in one go, so we kind of try to break it a little bit. So yep, here is part 3, and then please subscribe to see part 4 when we go up to Disneyland, and hopefully these hints and tips are useful for you. Thank you.
So we got up really early, and I have a bit of a confession to make. Our car, about this time, decided it wanted to develop a bit of a fault with the battery. The battery was basically on its last legs. And we managed to keep it going, but when we were at the site, I feel really sorry because for some poor person at 4 o'clock in the morning, they got woken up by our car alarm. So after getting there about 11:30 at night, or about 11, and by the time I got to sleep about 11:30, we got up really early. It was still pitch black, a little bit misty on the pitch. Just here, and then I got up and went to the shower, and then the girls brushed their teeth and stuff like that, and we were kind of ready to go. So you should be able to see a picture of us sat in the car, and there's a picture of the girls outside the bathroom. So it's a case of going round here, and then at the barrier, code out. And again, I used Google Maps just to see which way to go. So it was basically down here onto the A20, and it was no more than, I would say, 20-25 minutes. Absolutely beautiful looking over. It was nice and clear, fortunately, for us. So our ferry was on the 17th at, I think, 7:40 in the morning, which meant we had to be there. Which meant we were there like at least an hour early. I think we were there a bit more than an hour early. So we drove along here, and pretty much the A20 eventually goes to where you need to go to. Can't quite show you pure Street View here, but we basically went into here, went along to here, had to, I think it was just passport control, put our bits and pieces in, then drove round. Drove round and got our ticket. It was quite useful having my wife with me because it meant that we could do either side. The lanes were okay, not bad size, but just make sure. One of the things you have to think about is you need your passport out pretty much all the time. Every time you stop, even though you've had it checked a couple of times, you seem to get it checked again and again, and again. So the actual drive was no bother, and again I watched a couple of videos that were useful on YouTube. Some of them were a little bit older, but still kind of worked the same. And we came along, not sure exactly where to, but somewhere around here. And what you'll get is you'll get a number which says which lane you need to be into, and it's really not that bad actually finding the different lanes. We parked up in a lane somewhere down here. I think you could go at the terminal, and you could, if you wanted to, buy bits and pieces. We just stayed in the car. Because the battery was a little bit flat though, what I had to keep doing was unplugging the caravan from the car, just in case it was, draining not probably that much of the battery, but just a little bit of the battery. So we got on the ferry. Again, really, really easy. I was quite worried. First time I'd ever driven onto a ferry. I'd been on one, but not actually drove on myself. And I was also a bit stressed with the caravan. I really shouldn't have been. The kind of people at on the way out there, it was DFDS, were absolutely superb. You just basically follow them, and they tell you exactly where to go, exactly when to stop. There's literally I didn't think any stress getting on the caravan. Another good thing to do while you're waiting for the ferry is just double check absolutely everything. What I mean by that's just what you're doing on the other side, where do you need to go, just to kind of rejig your mind about the things that you need to do on the other side of the motorway. One of the things you'll see from one of the pictures is me reading the instructions and how to put the light benders. Actually, on some cars, and I didn't realise that my car can do this as well, you can actually just put it in the settings, but hey-ho, better be safe than sorry getting a fine over in France. So you're on the ferry about an hour and a half, so we decided that we would have a little bit wander around. We got a couple of pictures and bits and pieces. There is, a reason what to do in the ferry, although again with 3 children they do start to get a little bit touchy about being there for too long maybe. So we went and had breakfast. The breakfast on the way out there was not very nice at all. We had to even send a couple back because it was just rock hard. I don't know if that's a general thing, but it wasn't great for us from DFDS in terms of the food. But we had breakfast. That took a little bit of time. Girls sat and did a little bit of colouring, and then we went out on the deck as well. You can see from the pictures. We went out onto the deck and we had a look around. The middle one thought the ship was absolutely huge and really couldn't understand that it wasn't an actual place we were at, and it was just a big ferry. So again, the other side, got in the car. Again, really stressed about driving in France. First time driven abroad before, but again, not with a big caravan in the back. Again, the people, the kind of people who guide you, absolutely superb. Nothing to be stressed about at all. They really guide you and kind of make sure you get out. The only thing you need to think about is you're not driving on the right and not the left. I mean, I must say again, the port was absolutely superb. The way it was all set up, I suppose you possibly could have tried to drive on the left, but there wasn't any real opportunity to do that. So it was just a case of I just followed somebody. I mean, I'd watched the videos again, but just followed somebody. And then I knew once onto the motorway or near the motorway what we were going to do next. So as you can see from the map here, it said it would take about 5 hours 44 minutes. And again, what I would probably use is, rather than using Google Maps, and I'll show you that as well, I would show you probably using Via Mitchell. And Via Mitchell's excellent because basically what it gives you is it gives you the opportunity to put the caravan, and we'll look at that in a second. So you basically drive out of the port, like I was saying, zoom a little bit, and you look for the way you want to go to, which I knew was the kind of A16. But one of the things I did, and I'll maybe see if I can get some pictures of it as well while I'm talking about this, is I kind of took pictures at the kind of key points. So I look on the map and I think, right, there's a bit of a point there where am I coming off, and I would check on the map to see kind of how I would kind of look on the map and think, right, what points do I need to come off? So what I would do is, like I said before in the other video, I would go onto the actual road on the other side, and I would just check and look at where the pictures are, so I know where I need to come off. And what I did was, I'm on a Windows machine at the moment, is I basically I got something called Snipping Tool in Windows, and I would actually go round the actual sign there. So I would show that I needed to go this way. So I basically put a picture around and just show at each point, all the major points. So me and my wife wrote all the instructions down and just put the major points what I needed to do. So we decided we would come off here and we went along the I think it's the A16. I'm just going to turn the map around a second, because that's what obviously this way. You actually go past the Eurotunnel, for anyone who's interested, and we drove down to Rouen. Rouen was one of the places, that's a different pronunciation of it, where I was really worried. Alright, all the other cities pretty much get bypassed by the A16 and then later on the A10, but it doesn't really bypass the Rouen itself. So I spent a lot of time watching videos online, as well as looking at which ways we could go. I'm just going to zoom in here a second just to show you which way we did go. And again, Street View was brilliant for this. So there's a big, under here is a large tunnel, right? And I watched videos and bits and pieces and found out eventually that actually this way, going through the Boulevard de Europe, just for me when I went through there, it was just a bit daunting. The amount of roundabouts, the amount of turns, and just the size of the roads. And you're basically driving through the middle of a city to all intents and purposes. So what I did instead was I actually came off the N28 and I came down this little slip road onto the D18. So I'll just show you how that kind of worked. So let's put it end. So I kind of came out of the tunnel. It's a bit safe from here, and I just checked which way. Let's come back up end. Which way I had to actually go. So I spent quite a bit of time driving along on Street View, quite sad, but just making sure I knew exactly where I was going. So as you can see, when we get round the corner in a second, there is another tunnel. And again, lots of screenshots just shown to make sure that I knew, just jumping over the road here, to let you know where I was actually going. So keep following this road down. Oh, why is it turned down? Keep following the road down, and I knew that at some point it got to another tunnel. Oh, another tunnel was coming up. So I knew here that in a second there was going to be a tunnel. And I knew that I had to stay on this side as well. So I knew kind of go a bit further along. Sorry, the angle's just not quite right on Google Maps. So again, we try to do things a bit quick. Can you go to the other side of the road? No. Anyway, you eventually go through a little tunnel here, and again there's a couple of different ways you can go. So I went through this middle tunnel, Street View, that's a tunnel, really explained to my wife what I wanted to do. So you pop through here, and actually if you stay on the road, there's this lane here which is eventually going to come off, so you need to stay in the kind of middle lane. So I knew that off by heart. I needed to stay in this middle lane. And then I knew that this middle lane actually filters off down a ramp. Not that one. You can actually go over the bridge first. Down a ramp here. So I knew this ramp was here, and I took all the pictures, which was absolutely fantastic because the route was dead easy. You went round here, a bit further along, and then eventually zoom right out. After a little bit of there was a couple of roundabouts and bits and pieces, but the D118E eventually gets back to the A13. So it took about 8 hours in total, so we had to find somewhere to stop. So again, using the map, where could we stop? Where would be a good place to stop? So we looked at the fact that at some point we need to join back on the road, and we stopped at the service station here. When we first came in, it was absolutely rammed, so it wasn't perfect. But fortunately, some kind of truck stops here, and we stopped in one of these. Things to note is that French service stations, like British service stations, are, to be fair, a bit of a rip-off. That's just what they're like. We stopped. We got some fuel as well, because I think we were probably going to give or take. But again, with the caravan, you don't want to get to zero, so we put a little bit of fuel in. For that, we did think about stopping. There's an air just as the turn. There's an air over here somewhere, but we decided to stop here instead. Had dinner, baking hot sun, but mega busy. So then travelling down, we travelled all the way down, and then we took another stop, but I can't really remember where the other stop was, just because past Le Mans, I'd been up the day before, and I hadn't gone back at about 11 o'clock, about 20 minutes 11, got up at 4, half 4ish, and then drove down. So it was quite tiring. So this is one of you kind of take that in consideration. We did another little stop at a service station, very much quieter, had a cup of coffee, and then got back on our way. And then the A28 eventually becomes, again, like I was saying, just use the street view to have a look at which turn you need to take, because sometimes the junctions, like I'll show you here, there can be a few different directions, particularly when we go back up to Paris. So we took the A10 through Tours, no bother whatsoever. And again, just look on the street view, where do we have to come off? What's the turns like? What's the road like? How tight are the turns as well of a caravan? Looked at all those things all through street view. Again, lots of pictures of the maps. So one of the things that was quite useful for us getting down was that we got a pass. Oh, having a pass must be so. I appreciate that some people are a little bit worried, but having a pass makes your driving in France so much easier. I actually kind of wish that the tunnel near us was as efficient as the French sort of way of doing things. You literally could go through it about 10 to 15 kilometres. I said about 30, but 10 to 15, not even stop, and you would punch drive through, and there was people waiting there for ages to put their money in. Again, we could have done that because obviously my wife was with me. However, it just made things a little bit easier. So, and then eventually, like we said, we stopped at a site called Parc de February. Big main gates here, and then we were on, and I'll even show you which pitch we're on from the map here. We were on, I want to say this pitch here. So we're on this pitch here.